research papers and also learned about Ayurveda. And because of that, I could start my own range of exotic Ayurvedic line in the name of Dulahab, which has been received beautifully. So they have been anything that we want. It's because our R&D team is more like a family for me, like an extended family. Because of that, of the kind of communication that we have, they're ready to do anything that we ask for.
That's my point. They're ready to do because you're a part of the family, or because of how is it?
Because of the kind of because any kind of grievance they have, I always put it to the HR and I see to that everything is closed. In the sense like it is dealt with and I follow it up closely. So that kind of support I give them always, and whatever support we want, they always give it to us.
Next, we have Rati and Mamta, both of them for more than 15 years. And I've never, though the number of fights I used to have with you all, my formative years, it has always been one-sided. You guys have always been kind. What I want to ask you is, Rati, you've been a part of an agency, you've been a part of a client, and you want to be a taskmaster, but has there been anything where you are assertive, not curt or arrogant, which really upset the men gang and they said, shit, I should never work with her?
You're clapping for that. Actually, my question would be back to you, Shankar. Would you ever ask this question to a man in the first place? So, I'm not trying to put you in a spot. I know there is a reason why women get asked these questions. It seems to be the par for the course these days to kind of, bucket women as soft, assertive, arrogant. I mean, isn't that human nature? I mean, aren't you soft, assertive, arrogant? I mean, isn't that what comes out in different situations as a man and as a woman as well? So, I know this is not today to kind of label women as arrogant just because, they're being assertive. So, frankly speaking, I don't think, it's an answer that I would want to give, because I just believe it's different nuances, different personalities. Everybody has it. I could be assertive at certain times, I could be stern at certain times, I could be soft at certain times. It depends upon the situation and how I relate to it. And it could be the same for you as well. So calling me out as arrogant or I think is really not fair. But having said that, I'm really not too sure if I have come across that much of gender biases. It's also probably because being really lucky in the kind of organizations I've worked in. You mentioned the client side, which was at Vodafone, and now currently where I'm in Publicis Media. Frankly speaking, it has been a wonderful journey in both cases, and I also truly believe that if you have women bosses, your journey is a lot more easier, than you learn by mentorship.
They understand you better.
Understand you better. So, in that sense, both the client and the agency that I'm in right now, I've been lucky in that way. So, I do know that probably there is a lot of gender bias that happens in the market today. You see it in a lot of organizations, and my answer to that is that as long as you have enough representation of women in senior leadership roles, you can learn to live by example, and that is one of the biggest malices today, that you do not have enough representation in senior management roles. It's a long way.
Mamta, had what, more than 2 decade career. Johnson & Johnson, not my role, but you've dabbled so many roles. There must have been something very interesting in this 2.5 decade career, which really made you proud as a lady, thinking to yourself that no one else could have done this. Now, at this point in time, I take pride in saying I'm a woman. Please share some experience.
So, I think it's not, again, like what he said, it's not specific to gender. But when you do something with a lot of conviction, the commitment and passion comes across when you do it. And there have been situations, where something is happening with a client, and you put your point of view, client is able to turn the decision immediately based on what you have recommended, and that turns out to be a success. There have been multiple situations like that that I've faced. So I think what I take out is, it's not that whether I'm a woman or a man, it doesn't matter, but it's the commitment, the passion that you deliver to what then shows and how you get it. So, and like we said, I was speaking with Market, which I said, I've worked predominantly with women bosses, yeah, with Jasmine for a very long time. And there's been some kind of learnings that we've had, one in terms of being compassionate, being empathetic to the team, but yet being demanding. And that's what she was, and she's really very demanding, the kind of quality that she wanted. And that's really shaped a lot of us who work with her.
Super. Shalini, coming to you. You've been an entrepreneur, and you've also done a lot of roles. So what is it? What is it you find exciting when you work for food, for Mr. And so what was I'm sure a lot of us want to become an entrepreneur one day. Just tell us what is exciting? Being a lady entrepreneur, being a boss of myself, or
I'm going to answer that on two counts, one on my so I do wear two hats, one is and therefore it allows me a very interesting perspective also to be able to look at how do I work in a company with people, reporting to a boss, and how do I become boss to other people as well. I think everybody should become a boss of their own lives because it gives a very different sense of compassion, as Mamta mentioned. I think for leaders, compassion and empathy is very important. And that is true whether you are at an entrepreneur level or you're working in any organization for that matter. I think when you are at a leader, at an entrepreneur level, it becomes even more because what you do is exactly how you create your own organization and what is the value that you bring. It's the purpose that you create. And I think as a leader, if we do not create at any of these places or at either of these places, it's kind of lost. But yes, I do enjoy being entrepreneur a little bit more. It's more exciting. It's your own space, it's your own baby, it's your own stuff. And of course, there are enough and more challenges, but yes. But I think it really starts with who we are as people and who we are as leaders. I think that's the most critical aspect in any business, any organization that you follow.
Mrs. Jain, what is the culture change you would like to see for women in today's environment? It doesn't have to be media, marketing, FMCG. What is the culture change which you would, next day morning when you wake up, you see the table and say, damn good, I'm really happy about it?
From my experience, when I see there are so many women out here who are taking up leadership roles than in the past 2 decades. Especially in the last decade, there has been a huge shift in this, and there are many women taking up very, very important roles. The other day I was flying, and I happened to be sitting next to a lady pilot, and she was telling me that India has the largest number of pilots in the lady pilots in the world, women pilots in the world. So I was very happy to know that. So what, for me, if I have to tell something to the youngsters, what I would tell is try out different things, because once we start doing and dabbling in different kind of things, we will know what we are good at, what is our strength, what is our weakness, and how to shape our career much earlier in life, because it is very important to shape a career in whatever we want to do much earlier, because that gives us a very good advantage. And second one is to be assertive and also to be very, very conscious about the community that we live in. Because apart from taking care of the family and our loved ones, we have a huge moral responsibility to take care of the less fortunate ones around us. It gives, for me, it gives a great sense of inner satisfaction for me. And the third one is to build a strong support system with your friends, family, co-workers. That's what I know.
Great, thank you.
And I think I just want to add one more thing. The only thing that I think we tell all women, and including I think everybody, is that self-confidence is the most important. A lot of the times we end up doing things for others, but we never do things for ourselves. So if we don't have that belief about ourselves, whether we are a man or a woman, nothing will ever get done. And for girls, we just need it even more to tell them that, you know, it's all right and they need to have that self-belief in themselves.
Mamta, do you think the environment is safe for women in India, or do you think it's just a media hype?
I mean, in safe for women in India, I think it varies by region to region. And it's also a responsibility to some extent for women also to keep themselves safe. So it's not necessarily that, you know, the environment is bad. They could be getting into wrong situations at the wrong time. Specific to media, I don't think it is unsafe at all. Again, it depends on organizations. Organizations where I think there's a good amount of women and male ratios. Women have worked very well and felt very safe. But I think today, from a media environment, things are changing so fast.
I'm saying, are we hyping it too much? The media here, are we, making so much of noise that my last session where we call it scare branding, are we, the media hype is so high. Are we scaring the women? No, don't go to media and women.
So I
it's
think
like
that I think today.
Do you think we play an important role in
today
defaming your?
So media plays a role of actually hyping a lot of negative and never talking about the positive. There's a lot equally amount of good stories that need to be brought up. And somewhere, the good stories is what we need to focus. Bad things are happening, they were happening earlier also. But it's just that the focus on media has become so much. So I think it's a responsibility of media to strike a good balance and even bring a good amount of stories out. But I'm not sure that the world is so bad as it is today.
Having said that, just to add to what Bhavya said, I just believe that whatever has happened with the Me Too movement is definitely should have happened earlier. It's great that it has happened. It's kind of brought out a whole lot of things out in the open, and it's probably made it a lot more safer for people and women to address a lot of things.
There were a lot of women who also misused it.
True, there's always two sides to a story. But my point is that it had to start. And we can always debate about this, endlessly. But yeah, like you said, the point is that it started.
I have a very nice question for you. Imagine a situation where you are stern with somebody in your office. I also spoke to you after I sent you this question. You find both of them were doing wrong. They were doing something, whatever. Would you accord the same punishment to a guy and a girl?
Why are you directing all stern-related questions to me,
I'll tell you why. Because you're a very soft person, so I would like to get the response from you.
So, actually, it just goes back to the earlier question that you asked and some of the answer that I gave you. See, a lot of dynamics are at play in an organization. But frankly speaking, I don't think I would address it as male versus female. At least not in my mind. And this is not a school. I'm not a headmistress of a school or something like that. And I have to meet out punishment, right? So it's about course-correctiveness. It's about how you tackle the problem that you're facing with that particular employee or whatever it is. It's never male versus female to a certain extent.
How do they take it?
I'm not too sure. Like I said, it's like situation-led. And to a certain extent, being a leader, you do have that authority to, or decision to make to choose to be whether soft or stern or arrogant, whatever it is that we were calling it earlier days were. But like I said, I mean, I might have behaved the same way with a male colleague or a female colleague. I'm not going to be meeting out a so-called decision on a particular behavior.
You're saying the situation.
The situation calls for it. And I know why you're asking me all these questions. I know there is a lot of data available out there, a lot of research available out there. We know for a fact that all of this is staring us in the face in certain organizations, in certain sectors. I mean, whichever research you want to go with today, depending on whichever research you want to go with today, global averages for women in leadership roles is about 29 to 30%. In India is as low as 7%. So to me, again, I reiterate that is one of the biggest reasons. I mean, the more women you have in senior management roles, the more examples they set. So the more preconceived notions and conditioning that you have to be will just dissipate. Right? It's not about calling people soft and all of that, right? Similarly, again, in terms of the way you treat an employee, because he's a he or she's a she, really, I think does not come into the picture. At least in the organization that I've worked with, or I'm working with currently as well. So,
Shani, last question. You have a person who's got the appetite or wants to be an entrepreneur. On the other side, she's got a golden job waiting for her. Okay, but being an entrepreneur comes with a lot of risk. You know how family, parents say, no, you have a great job waiting for you. So since you've been through the journey, what is your take? Like for example, today we represent a lot of use products. Even today we get a lot of questions from women, I think I shared with both of you, down south, from lower parts of the world, saying that I come from a very small state, so can I do it? But my family and so on, they said, no, you have a job, you get 20,000-25,000 rupees, work for 3-4 years, get married and settle in your life. But I really want to do something big. So what is your, in a nutshell?
That's an excellent question, Shankar, and I think we can debate endlessly, about something like this. I'm just going to go back to what I was saying earlier, that if you have self-belief, you have conviction, and you're willing to put that hard work, then I would tell everybody to become an entrepreneur. Life lessons are going to be very, very tough. You're an entrepreneur yourself, right? Life lessons are very tough. You manage things, but in that sense, I think I would also say get a certain grounding, get a certain understanding of how business happens. It prepares you in a certain way of how the world is. But yes, if you want to be an entrepreneur, believe in yourself. That's the most important aspect, and that's exactly how we all work. The moment we start believing in ourselves, we have that awareness about ourselves. Life is magical. It's mystical, but it's magical. And when that awareness and that belief happens, everything happens. Purpose happens, passion happens, persistence happens, enthusiasm happens. Day and night will happen, hard work will happen, diligence will happen. So it all boils down to two things. One is belief, and I think for all the people who are turning entrepreneur need support. So women, men, whoever needs to get into that space needs that support and should be supported.
Thank you all.
And we ended this session like a boss, ladies and gentlemen. Give it up to the champions on stage. I request you to come forward for a quick group photo. Yeah. How many of you here believe women need empowerment? Put your hands up. We don't need empowerment. We are good. You just let us and we will do fine. I'll tell you. Women always have the power. We have the power. That's right. Give it up, ladies and gentlemen. All the women in the room. Give a shout out. And we at Food Dimension Media have lots of lovely women working through the women in Food Dimension Media who've been behind the event. Can we give a nice big round of applause as well? Thank you, ladies. Thank you for being such a fabulous example. And I invite Mr. Satyamurthy from Mudra and Mr. Dev Shinoy from Staffage